Hey, good evening. This is Spirit Journey. I was just watching videos on the hurricane, hurricane, Hurricane Irma, and to my surprise, that St. Thomas, the island that I used to live at, I lived there for 3.5 years, many years ago, and to find out that it has been devastated. And St. Thomas has a lot of trees and plants all over the place, and you really can't see a lot of times the homes because they're covered by the leaves and the trees. But now you saw it looked bare, extremely bare. But what this video is going to be about is the disparities that happens when you have a natural disaster. One thing, I don't want anybody, any race, nationality, creed, I don't want anyone to be harmed by any natural disaster. But with this disparity that I noticed with the news coverage, with some of the news coverage, not all of them, I was taken back when they mentioned that there was looting. And it was in St. Martin that they mentioned that. And I think that, yes, and they also mentioned something about St. Thomas. And I'm thinking, okay, you have a natural disaster. You have a very, very, very small island. And then the disaster hits. Your only hospital, like in St. Thomas, their only hospital is demolished. And you have limited resources. And when you talk about looting, and then some mentioned something about machetes with St. Martin, I said, oh, come on. I felt that it was for drama's sake, to make news. And I think part of the problem is like if you have limited resources, and then on top of that you have a natural disaster, you already don't have anything to start out with. And then now you're on survival mode. But it's something. You have, let's say, a poor person and a rich person. The same natural disaster happens. But how the people are viewed is different. How the poor is viewed when they have a natural disaster is, oh, they're going to loot me. When the rich has a natural disaster, it always seems to be a better communication with the government, that the resources come in and, are able to trickle in quicker than the have-nots. Then there was an interview of a couple who was able to leave St. Martin and to go to San Juan, Puerto Rico. They were vacationing in St. Martin. And they were fortunate to be able to be rescued from their resort. The resort that they were in, they were interviewed by one of the major news outlets in the U.S., and they mentioned that they saw, they said that people started roaming around the resort. And then someone was signaling, within the resort, signaling, hey, we better get weapons and things like that. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. You have total destruction on the island of St. Martin. So it's natural people are going to be scouting for help, for resources. But instead of saying, hey, these people, it's their home, and here we just vacation here, we're going to be flying out, they're going to have planes that ship out the tourists, but who's left are the local people. And usually these so-called local people are black, and the vacationers are usually white. Any vacationer could be of any race, but in general, with the resorts, who do you see? So right away, a natural disaster, it has a face to it of who's the looter and who's the tourists. The looters are probably classified as anyone black, and then the victims are the ones, the vacationists, and many of them are white. So right away, you're going to have people being treated differently according to their status. A status of a tourist seems to be more valuable than those who are residents there. And any resident could be of any race as well. And but will they be treated the same? I don't know. But I was concerned about how the coverage was, and I had to go out of my way to find out what was happening in the Caribbean. And I didn't hear in the U.S. news that St. Thomas was hit very hard, and St. John. Those are the U.S. Virgin Islands. St. Croix was spared the hurricane. Puerto Rico had gotten some damage, but not that extensive, and I found out that Puerto Rico is sending in people from the other islands who got hit hard by the hurricane and allowing them to come into their island. And I think that is very nice and very benevolent of Puerto Rico. So what I want to talk about with all what I said is that I think the people of the Caribbean and people, in coastal areas by the Caribbean should have like a network. Especially, I'm just going to put it out there. I think especially the people of color or black ancestry, African ancestry, should have some type of network that when these disasters happen, that you cannot rely on the government or the system to rescue you. So somehow to have maybe an outpost or something like, let's say you off island you have, let's say, planes, helicopters, food, things that you will need when you have a natural disaster like a hurricane, something, and that when these natural disasters in the Caribbean happen, that the outpost, let's say on the U.S. mainland, could then fly in right away and service the people. It has to have something. You have to have something to be able to protect yourselves, to have something devised for communication for the people that live there. So everyone is informed and everyone has a plan of action. When I used to live in St. Thomas, I worked for a utilities company when I worked there. And one thing that was interesting about this job was that we had to learn different skills, different things outside of our job. They taught me adult first aid and CPR. I was a licensed instructor there because it's necessary when you have a small number of people. You have to be able to help, to extend and help others, because you can't rely on a large system because it's limited the number of people there. So people have many trades, so to speak, and so I think with that, and with what's happening with these natural disasters, you have to learn more than one type of trade, and a trade that's specific regarding to natural disasters. I think everyone there should learn about adult first aid and CPR, to learn about how to rebuild, how to, things with water. Some, to have like a microcosm of talents, of things that you could develop. And so it's almost like clockwork. Okay, you have this type of disaster. Okay, let's bring in the aid and from our outposts and keep the communications open. Because now, you have a lot of these islands, it's very tourist based. But when the tourists go, and when the tourists can't return, or they are afraid to return, such as the looting issue that they mentioned, whether it's true or not. Once people believe that's what's going on, that's all they need to hear, and they won't come, and the economy is going to fall. So don't have a system that's based strictly on tourism, and to have that backup plan. And again, your integrity, your how you viewed by the world is important as well. It's important because how people view you is going to determine how fast they're going to help you. If they don't want to help you because they don't like you, or oh, those people are this and that. No, so it's important about your image in the world arena when there's a natural disaster. When people like you or trust you, then they'd be more apt to assist you. So that's all that I really have to say, but I'm really saddened about the condition of some of the islands there, and as well Florida, who got hit real hard, and the neighboring states. So my heart goes to all of you, and I hope that communication is open to those who are in need so they can get rescued and get the assistance that they need. You know, a natural disaster shouldn't equate to your social economic standing. It should go beyond that. So thank you again for listening, and my condolences for any of you who have lost people in their families, or your homes are destroyed. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.